War Eagle, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn Family spectrum. Obviously, what is that? Obviously, always heavy on the sports here, but if it's orange and blue, if it's related to Auburn, the town, the university, the team in any way, we will talk about it here on these live streams. Speaking of live, we're broadcasting on two different platforms at the same time, primarily right here in front of me. We are watching or broadcasting from YouTube right here, and off to my left, right on the screen, I guess, we have a social media group that usually follows along with us, that being the Twitter folks today. So everybody wave hi to the Twitter folks, and we always welcome them to come on over here to this platform over here because it is the better experience, but it's here available on Twitter if you like it. We'll try our best to keep up with your comments. Today's edition, we always come prepared with a main topic to discuss, but we'll get on to many different things, like tons of it all over the place. I expect today, as we do on every live stream, but the main topic is that Dylan Brooks and Dreshun, if I'm pronouncing Dreshun Miller, have been added to Auburn's 2021 recruit class, and one of those is an official transfer, so it technically doesn't count towards the rankings and all that kind of stuff, but we'll get into all that. We're going to discuss that and anything that you want to, so post your questions and comments and smash that like button if you are enjoying this stream. We're going to go through a couple of pre-show announcements here as we typically do. While we do that, this is your opportunity to do, I guess, the roll call is what we're calling it. I want to know where you're watching from right now. You can start with a War Eagle, whatever you'd like, and then post your city, state, country that you are watching from right now. So please do let us know where you are watching in from. So here you can see it on YouTube. Sorry, Twitter folks, you can't see this, but that's why we encourage you to come over here. This is the support card where you can find ways to help support our content here on the network. You can listen to the podcast. You can find it on any podcast app out there, especially Apple Podcasts. All those links are going to be in the description for this video on YouTube, but also at the top of the chat window on YouTube as well. If you need help finding things, please do let us know. We also have our Booster Club where you can sign up for as little as $1 a month and help support the content that we do here. You can even get yourself featured on a podcast to tell your Auburn story. By the way, for our Patreon members, our Booster Club members, just posted a pretty sweet update for you guys about our next guest on Auburn Roots that you don't want to miss. So go check that if you're out. If you want to know what it is, think about signing up. We also do PayPal and TeePublic as well. The only other announcement that I have for you is that we have a brand new episode out of War Horses today, which is our Auburn Equestrian podcast with Auburn Elvis, and he interviewed Dr. Fiorentino, I think is how you say it. She is the executive director of the NCEA, which is the National Collegiate Equestrian Association. Not the NCAA, the NCEA. You should go check that out. That's a pretty cool interview. It's something that we're very proud that he was able to pull off and be able to talk to someone in that world. And his rankings are out today for equestrian. So make sure you go check those out at e2cnetwork.com. All right, let me address some comments and stuff that you guys have all been bringing up here. By the way, I want to give a shout out to my man. I hope I don't embarrass him too much. Mr. Junior Rosegreen on Twitter says it's his birthday. So I'm not going to sing it for you because I don't want to butcher it and hurt your ears. But everybody right now, chat windows across social media and YouTube, please wish Junior Rosegreen a happy birthday and War Eagle to you, buddy. So I hope that you feel special today getting a shout out here on the live stream. All right, we got people watching in from Hartselle, from Opelika. I felt like I saw Jackson, Tennessee, all over the place. So lots of good stuff here. So yeah, it looks like we got a lot of the regular crew here. There's people talking about where Dreshun Miller might actually fit into all of this stuff, and we'll talk about this. A. Robinson's here. Joe Rudolph, Neil White. Good to see all of you guys. Thank you so much for being here right now. All right, so the main topic: two new additions to the Auburn recruit class. Now, first, let me ask this question, everybody. Do you think they should count transfers to the recruiting class rankings? What are your thoughts on that? Because supposedly that does not count towards it at all. What do you think? I think personally, if you can pull them in, it should be counted towards. Junior Rosegreen says yes. Neil says no. I think personally they should be counted towards your recruiting class, because it's all part of recruiting, right? And I'm not even a big like transfer fan. You guys have been here for a while, know that I don't. It's not that I'm against transfers coming in and stuff like that, and I'm not in any way. Some of the best transfers that we've had have come here to Auburn, but I just think that if you have to do the recruiting to convince them to transfer, it should be part of your recruiting rankings and all that kind of stuff. Stereotypical Auburn fan says yes, but they don't. Yes and no. Absolutely, they should count transfers. I think they should as well. Personally, that's just me. And then, but a little honesty here. Stereotypical Auburn fan says because it boosts our class ranking. That's the only reason he won it, right? It's a little selfish, right? But hey, it is what it is at this point. By the way, Junior, you have got a lot of happy birthdays coming across here on YouTube. I know you probably can't see them, but I hope you feel special today. So happy birthday, my man. All right. Preston asks, do you think we'll get offensive lineman even when he committed to Auburn earlier, I have messed this name up. Jamarian Gooch that recently left Tennessee. He was committed to Auburn before he flipped, and he has a good relationship with Will Friend. So obviously, when you have a coach here on staff that got him to pick them or flip to Tennessee over Auburn, that obviously bodes well for you. However, there's that added caveat that he decided that he didn't want to come to Auburn. So was there other things at play other than Will Friend was just a great recruiter? I don't know. It could possibly be that. Here's what I'm going to say about that. If there was one transfer that we needed to go after hard, it would be this one. Offensive line is the problem of Auburn. I don't know how many times I've got to say that it is Auburn's biggest problem. And if they're going to fix it in recruiting and in transfers, they've got to make that a priority. So go after him hard if he is available right now. Let me back down here. Seems like Harson's going after his backyard. Let's see. We could use Gooch. He is huge. It's such an interesting name, too, as well. Junior says you guys are the best fans in the world, by the way. And he's part of that fandom, too, obviously. But, he just wants to give you guys an nod. I'm trying to relay messages across social media to YouTube here because I know most of the people are over here. But the love is being felt all the way across here. Neil White says there's an article on Dog Nation, Dwag Nation, as we call them, trying to play down Miller transferring to Auburn. We didn't want him anyway, was the takeaway. Isn't that always the case for Georgia fans? I mean, really, for Georgia, anything. Well, we didn't want it anyway. We didn't want to win the national championship anyway. We just gave it to Alabama. Yeah, it's Georgia fans are a thing. And honestly, okay, so let me take a sidebar here. This is why, even living in Georgia, I don't take them seriously as I acknowledge that they are our second biggest rival in terms of history. It's more about the history for me than the rivalry of it. To me, I get more fired up about LSU than I get Georgia. In fact, when I usually give my most hated fan bases rankings, it's Alabama, obviously number one, LSU. And honestly, Florida has been making a play to be up at number 3 above Georgia. But Georgia is still going to be number 3 right now, and then be Florida, and then USC, Oklahoma, some non-conference teams out there. That bag, though, McDonald's specials play a bigger role in recruiting from the wonderful state of Tennessee. Dog fans are the whiniest fans in the SEC. That's from Neil White. Well, we are all just dogging literally on the dog fans at this point. Yeah, it's real interesting to see what their excuses are on a constant basis of why they can't get over the hump. And listen, here I am. I'm going to say this right now. I 100% still stand by the statement that we made the better choice in 13, December 2012, to hire Gus Malzahn over Kirby Smart, because he can't get over the hump. I mean, you can do literally his playbook is to do the exact same thing Nick Saban done, and every coach from his coaching tree that has done that has never been able to beat him. No coach has ever been able to beat him. So I don't want a coach that's going to do the exact same thing as Nick Saban to beat him. I want a coach that's going to do things different. Gus has done that. I did that, and I think Brian Harsin is going to do that as well, which is why it's now a very favorable hire for me, because I think he's a big individual, or he's big on individuality. See, a lot of you guys are smashing that like button for the stream. Please continue to do that if you're enjoying this. Thank y'all. Nola, I don't know if we've seen you here before, my man, but welcome. It says Derek Mason and co definitely have an advantage being at Auburn and can't wait to see the game played on Saturdays. Yes, I'm excited to see us hopefully have more fans in the stands. I wouldn't get your hopes up on, major improvements in terms of fan attendance and stuff like that, but more than 25% or whatever it was would be a nice change of pace, right? Darius says that Georgia fans are not as toxic as Boston College fans. Are Boston College, are they even relevant to college football? I mean, they were relevant at one point to basketball, but are you even relevant to that at this point? So it's interesting that you say that they're more toxic. I couldn't imagine being a Georgia fan. The definition of so close yet so far. There's actually a song for that. It's a Disney song, So Close Yet So Far. You should go look that up and just play it for your Georgia fans next time. I'm gonna do that now. That's gonna be awesome. Jack says Tut is going to try and transfer probably since Dreshun, I can't pronounce it. Somebody help me with that. Came in. Well, I thought Tut was still gone, right? Did that change at this point? Like, I thought if you're talking about him transferring over, I thought he was still gone. Did that change? I missed that. But let's talk about maybe these two guys and where they fit into. So Dylan Brooks is an outside linebacker, and they kind of put him. And I'm interested is that they're starting to describe him this way because of the defense he's coming into as an edge rusher. So we're moving to a 3-4 defense, which I've been on record that I do not like, and there's no logical reason for that other than the fact that I hated playing with it on NCAA football. That's really it. And traditionally, Auburn's been a 3-4 based defense. They've moved to more of a 3-2-5 at times, but 3-4. A 4 front is what I'm used to and I like. So now with a 3-4, what you move to is these outside linebackers with a little bit more power behind them, so they become in essence edge rushers but still outside linebackers. So that's why he's listed as that. And then Dreshun Miller is going to be a cornerback. So I think obviously the biggest excitement is coming from Dylan Brooks because it's the one that everybody was hyping about. Jack was here preaching about the fact that Dylan Brooks was coming, and I continued to warn him, don't get your hopes up, and he ended up being right. So here's me saying that again. And so now I'm happy and celebrating with all of you. I think that's the funniest thing, though, is that people, and this is not a comment at Jack or anything like that, but when people hear someone make an opinion and they don't like it, it's like, how dare you have the difference of opinion on me? And I can come back and say I was wrong about it, because I was. Let's see. Let me back up here. A lot of comments coming in. The funniest thing about Georgia is that they rent their Georgia logo from the Green Bay Packers. In a way, yes, that is true. A. Robinson claimed he's going to throw down the prediction of the century 120% at Auburn this year. Well, they tend to sometimes let in standing rooms. I don't know that it's ever to the level of 120% capacity. Although I will tell you, during the 2013 Iron Bowl, I have never ever felt an atmosphere like that. And I recently, by the way, I'll do a quick plug for our most recent Auburn Roots podcast, where I interviewed Richard Stevens, who is the Auburn football scoreboard worker. He runs the scoreboard when it changes over on the score. That's him. He and I talked a lot about how I think it was him and I, but anyway, we probably did at some point. The atmosphere for 2013 Iron Bowl was comparable to the atmosphere for the 1989 Iron Bowl, the first Iron Bowl in Auburn, and how there was an electricity in the air, and there was way more people in there than should have been allowed, probably that didn't have tickets and stuff like that. It was absolutely incredible. Nola, have you been on here a few times? My bad, man. I have, tried so hard to keep, as this continues to grow, I try my hardest to keep up with everybody here. It's going to get harder, and as that happens too, I'm going to miss people's comments and have to kind of move on from some. And it's not me trying to ignore you guys or anything like that. It's just it's just tough sometimes. Let's see. Back down here. Neil says he's also not a 3-4 fan. Stereotypical Auburn fan says 3-4, I think, offers more versatility for both pass coverage and pass rush. I would agree with you on versatility. I still don't like it. And there's no logical reason for it whatsoever, other than I just don't like it. Let's see here. Both. Nola says both of these pickups, talking about Miller and Brooks, are both steals, and in his opinion, I think it makes Auburn's team scary. Well, and not even so much the scary thing, but it fills some roles that really needed to be filled, some depth that needed to be kind of cushioned. I think we all agree that linebacker, even with the loss of KJ Britt, is in pretty decent shape of who we've got there right now. I think defensive backs has a lot of talent there, but there's a lot of young talent. So bringing in a somewhat seasoned guy who went to West Virginia, and I think he's now a redshirt junior, so he'll have 3 years if he uses the year of eligibility that everybody was granted last year. I don't know how that works with the whole thing. So bringing somebody in with a little bit of experience can help bring up some of that young defensive back talent, Nehemiah Pritchett, Jalen Simpson, all that kind of stuff, and then it can give Roger McCreary some help. A. Robinson says that he likes Tut, but he's constantly getting burned. It does seem that he's more of a kind of downhill defensive back, which is why I think he was perfect for the Kevin Steele offense, which usually had that special position that was kind of a hybrid defensive back, linebacker kind of guy. When Kristen Tut came downhill, you best get out of his way. Joe says, I heard we running a 1-5-5 this year on third down, Patriots. A. Robinson, is this really your first stream? This cannot be your first stream. I know you have been here forever. I think you're just messing with me at this point. So Tavoris King asks, and honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest with you here. I don't pay attention to most other people outside of Auburn. Sometimes I get wind of things. I did not know that Muschamp was hired at UGA. Do I think that the hiring of Muschamp will help or hurt UGA? I think it'll help. I think he's a great coach, defensive-minded coach. He's very good at firing you up. I don't think it would hurt. I don't think it'll hurt. It'll definitely help with recruiting, with motivation and things like that. And it might be the thing that kind of pushes Georgia up, above Alabama, because they were at one point the best defense in the SEC this year. And that's kind of the way things are trending right now in the SEC, offense focused. So this may be the thing that kind of maybe pushes them a little bit forward, and maybe they can make a run at trying to finally beat Alabama for one of these times. Not going to happen, but maybe. Alex says, I would be surprised if we didn't still see a lot of 4-3, even if base is 3-4. Seems to be how Mason was trending at Vandy. And I think that would make a lot of sense too, right? Because you've got a lot of guys right now that are used to a 4-3 base. So you kind of need to give them something to work from while you instill in your system, right? Because it's going to be a lot easier to make that transition if they have something that they're comfortable with to start off with, and then move completely wholesale after a year into, we are base 3-4. We'll still use what we need to at times, but right now we're going to be more of a hybrid right now. And I think that's kind of what makes Brian Harson's decision making as an offensive minded guy probably key here. He can utilize some of those spread based players that we have right now while he gets in what he needs to use exactly what he wants in his offense. Let's see here. I really believe Tut will be better as a safety to maximize his talent. Well, if you think that he gets burned in coverage, I don't know that that's probably the case. I actually don't know his full specs. Maybe I should go look at him before I make this comment. But I also often wonder, would it be best for him to really kind of do a body change and become a linebacker, like a smaller linebacker, a fast linebacker? I really do think that would probably be help, because I think he's okay in coverage in the flats, in short passes and things like that. Or the thing he just needs to do is focus on becoming a better coverage guy and be able to do that as well. But it seems like most people think he should be better safety here. What's everyone's favorite Auburn game you've been to? Mine was 2017 UGA. I got to go with my best friend who was a UGA fan. It was fun to say the least. Well, let's do that right now. It's a great question. This is why we do these live streams. I love interacting with all of you. Everybody all the way around, your first or your favorite or favorites Auburn football games that you've been to. And Junior, if you're still there, I know you probably got more than all of us put together because you were at all of them during your time there. For me, it's so the cliche answer, but it is hard to beat that answer, and that is the kick six. I don't know that, there's going to be a game in my lifetime that will ever do that again. So let me put that aside for a second and talk about everything outside of that. West Virginia, the rain game. It was while I was at school there. That was incredible. I was out there in the torrential hurricane that had happened. I remember going as a kid to the Auburn UCF game that I think Auburn ended up winning 9-6 at the very end of the game on like a touchdown pass to Bailey, I think his name was. And I can't remember who the quarterback was. But I remember that one just and always sticks out in my mind. I've been to, the entire 2010 season homestand except for I think the one rinky-dink game we had at the very end of the season. So that was incredible as well. So I could keep going on in a list like that. But, the one that'll always stick out in my mind is that rain game against West Virginia because it was outstanding atmosphere. And it was a time where the Auburn student section and fan base was just fired up. It was Gene Chiswick's first year and the incredible comeback that happened was just outstanding. So where does everybody stand on the recruit class now with the addition of Brooks and Miller now? We asked this, and I think the consensus that we got with kind of talking about talking about the people that were here during those live streams was the recruit class was probably somewhere in the range of a B- on average. I think personally, I did a C+. I would say that this moves it up to a B- in my view. So I would agree with you all that for the majority of you, when we kind of average things out, that we are now at a B+ level with the addition of Brooks and now Miller, because those were two spots that we really needed to fill. So has your opinion changed on that at all? Tavoris says, the 2001 UF game for me, was I at that one? No, I was not, but I remember that one from TV. That was with Damon Duvall in the rain, in the wind, in the rain, 50-something yard kick, I think it was. That reminds me of another one, 2006 Florida game, Florida punt. And Trace, I was sitting in the upper deck, but low enough where we were right there at the end zone and saw him do the flip into the end zone. Just perfect angle. It was just absolutely, absolutely amazing. A. Robinson, that may have been what you were talking about, the Florida game, because that was something else. It's hard not to like a guy like Trey, isn't it? Because there was no reason that he would ever see significant time. There was no reason that he would ever become like a hero at Auburn in terms of and not because of he was not talented, but because of the talent that was ahead of him. When you talk about Carnell Cadillac Williams, you talk about Ronnie Brown, Brandon Jacobs at one point, and I would even say Brandon Johnson, I think I've got his name right, the fullback could run a little bit too. Was more of a blocking back, but could run a little bit as well. You weren't going to really see much time, but the fact that all those guys get hurt and Brandon Jacobs wasn't there at the time, and then you rise to the occasion and then become a staple, obviously on special teams, but you get utilized throughout the rest of your career in a significant way simply because of the way you rose to the occasion game. That's an incredible story. That's the Auburn story, is when the chips are down and your moment comes, you seize it and you do something with it. 2017 versus Bama, got on the ESPN game. Auburn won, rushed the field, and then rolled tumors. That's pretty good. I was there as well. Was that? Yes, I was there for that one. I'll be honest too with you guys. I literally looked around the stands. I was like, are we going to do this again? Really? I was like, well, here I go. I'm going with everybody else. That was the Florida game was your first game. Ramon, what's going on, my man? Good to see you from ATX. First game, Florida versus Auburn in the Jordan Hare 2006. You know, Joe, it's funny now that a lot of people are saying that, but it's not just this stream. I've talked to a lot of people that their first Auburn game was that 2006 Florida game. And that, I think, that shows you kind of a generational shift in the Auburn fandom. But I think it also shows you how big that game was. Because let's think about the context of what happened with that game going forward. Or at the moment, not going forward, but at the moment. Auburn had just lost, and they were number 2 in the nation, I think, to South Florida. I was at that game as well. They had was I at that game? Yes, I was. They had lost that ranking. They had fallen to like 13th or something like that. Florida was surging with Chris Leak and Tim Tebow coming up and stuff like that, and they looked like the team to beat, and they would eventually be the team to beat and be the national champions. But game day was there. It was incredible. And just the hype around that type of, we were the hunted, but now we are the hunter. It was just an incredible atmosphere too. So that's a great pick. Ramon's asking the deep questions here right now. What was your first Auburn football memory? I think it goes back. So I have these images in terms of a football game. It's that Auburn UCF game. I think it was like 1994 or something like that when I was a kid sitting in the stands. And I remember the throw down the sidelines. I think Bailey was the wide receiver, I think. But I was very, very young. But I know I've been to games before that, even younger, because I'll always remember being on this. It was almost like a park, but it wasn't. It was in the middle of campus. And it was like this little hill where we, in a group of families, that got together to tailgate. And I just remember the feeling that I got when there, that it was like safe. It was familiar. It was fun because we were just throwing the football around, little kids, just running around the thing. There was football sounds coming off from the stadium as the game was getting closer and closer. People were coming into town, the smells of things cooking. That is what I remember. It's not so much the game, but the feeling that I got from this. So that would be my first memory of that. But the first football game is what I mentioned, that Auburn UCF game. Stereotypical Auburn fan. So here, a little quick aside to you guys. I'm a huge Disney World fan, so this is funny that he brought this up. I was on Splash Mountain during the kick six. The ride had shut down in the middle of it for some reason. All I remember is my dad's phone blowing up. The fact that you were on a ride, not sitting somewhere, watching the game is funny in and of itself. The fact that it happened there. I was getting on Splash Mountain when Kyle Davis, if you guys remember him, reached back and grabbed that ball like one-handed at the 30-yard line, like a bomb from Sean White, I think it was. And I saw that in line at Splash Mountain. So apparently, if you're an Auburn fan in Disney World, go get on Splash Mountain. Good things happen. Neil says, my first Auburn game was back in 1986. Pat Dye had those teams rolling. I think that team won 10 games. Yeah, I think 1986 was that big year for them. So anyway. I love this about the streams and when we get onto like rabbit holes like that, because that's the stuff I love talking about. Obviously, we can sit here and analyze, all this other stuff. But when we get talking about the things that we really love about Auburn, that's what I love about this stuff here. So anyway, all right. Well, I think we're going to say goodbye to the Twitter folks. We'll stick around here for still a little while longer, but we'll just wave goodbye to them. Everybody say bye, Twitter folks, and we'll hopefully catch you over here on YouTube soon. We usually stay here a little bit longer. All right, folks. I asked you guys earlier, and I don't think I saw any responses for it, but you don't have to have any responses. Has your opinion of the recruiting class changed at all? If so, yet like increase, decrease with the additions of Miller and Brooks into the class? And we talked about a little about Jamarian Gooch potential. Is there anybody else that you're hearing rumors thinking should come to Auburn? Anything like that? I'll be honest with you. I'm super shocked that we have not had a Boise State transfer yet. I am literally shocked by that. It's incredible. Ramon says, my first was even when I went to college in Columbus and went there with some friends to Auburn. Been a fan ever since. If it gets in your blood, Ramon, it doesn't leave. It just doesn't leave. Doesn't matter how it happens, when it happens. A. Robinson Arson has made this a decent class. So when you say decent, do you mean like decent as in satisfactory, or decent as in like I'm good with this, like a little enthusiasm behind it? So decent is hard to interpret in typing. What do you expound on that a little bit for me? Neil says increase to a B. Torvaris says increase for me B instead of C. So you were a little bit lower than me. If I gave it a C plus, which honestly I probably would and should have given it a C, because of as we talk through it. But I had tend to be. I know some of you have been here long will disagree with this, but I tend to be an optimist about things, and I tend to like not be able to take off my orange and blue glasses. So I probably gave it a C plus simply because of that, but it probably should have been a C to start with. AU says, I want Cody Brown more, but I don't see that happening. In my rule of thumb for transfers and anything with this portal, and I didn't actually mean to sign my national letter of intent, is always don't believe it until it actually happens, because you will set yourself up for failure. This time, people were right with Dylan Brooks and him. He was saying, I want to be at Auburn. I want to be released from this on social media. You can say that all you want, but you actually have to get the people that you signed with to agree to it. And that was the tough part for me, to be able to buy into it. I'm good with it this year, but we'll need to be a top 10 next year. We always need to be a top 10 class. I think it's going to be tough. I do expect them to be in the top 15. I'll even go on a stretch here and I say I expect them to be in the top 12. But busting in the top 10 these days, that is tough to do. It is very, very tough to do. The fact that Gus did it consistently is a testament to how good a recruiter he was, despite what some of you may think. Brad says recruiting an A, considering Gus leaving right before early signing day. And so I think that's a great way to think about it too. So if we take the signing class in its fullest context, knowing the circumstances around it, you could probably make a case for an A considering the circumstances. I do consider those in my decision making, but I still have to look at, at the whole picture on the other side as well, which is why I still say a B minus, because I think it always could have been better, and probably with Harson's track record should have been better, but he still had a tough draw coming in the way he did. Ramon asks, will you be at A-Day this year? That's a great question. I hope to be. I have not made any definitive plans this year, and this whole crazy COVID year has thrown the way we do things here on this network off a little bit. What we usually do, especially during football season, is we're there every home game pretty much. And whether I go to the game or not, I usually spend all day on campus just walking around posting social media stuff and meeting with Auburn fans and all that kind of stuff. And if I don't have a game, I usually watch it in the student center. So, and what a lot of people have asked is they want to do like a little get together, like just a quick meetup. So that's going to be dependent upon like, all this stuff that's going on and stuff like that. But yes, I think we could, say, hey, 30-minute window, I'm going to be here. We're all going to meet here. Let's all meet up and say hello. I'd love to do that. So, but yes, I would like to be there. I'm not making any definitive plans on that yet, but I think 8A weekend, not 8A day, 8A weekend is one of the best experiences you could have as an Auburn family member, bar none. All right, I think at this point, I want to get your last minute, not going to rush off, but last minute comments, questions, could be anything about our topics here today or anything else you want to ask. Let me remind you of a couple things before we get too far towards the end here. These are ways that you can help support our content here. We appreciate you just being here and hitting that like button if you enjoyed this content today. But you can also listen to our podcast. All these links, especially that one, are up at the top of the chat window there. You can find them all the way up there in the description for this video. If you need personal help getting access to something, let me know. All these things are on our website, e2cnetwork.com as well. Big thing, though, is join the Booster Club if you haven't, for as little as $1 a month. And I'll give you a little hint. You usually don't get charged for this until the beginning of the next month. So if you want to kind of come in and feel it out before you get charged, now's a good time to do it. I just posted an exclusive update in there for people that are current Patreons about who the next Auburn Roots guest is going to be. And on the big fives, this one being 25, I usually like to do Auburn coaches, athletes, connections to the athletic department. So there's a hint right there. You may want to go find that out. But go check that out over at patreon.com/E2C Network. We also do PayPal. And we have a T-Public store. There is a sale going on right now. And I got to remember to always, I forget, this is not our t-shirt, but I have a store with our logo and some other Auburn related gear. It's not officially stuff, like, so it doesn't have like the Auburn logo and stuff and that. But, you can get like fun little t-shirts that are related to Auburn stuff there from other independent artists as well. And a quick plug again. Equestrian podcast out today with an interview with the NCEA executive director. You want to go check that out. And the new Auburn Elvis Equestrian rankings are out today on the website as well. All right. Here's a question. Should I drug my bearded dragon this year? Last year we won every game when he was asleep. Well, I wouldn't say that I'm the least superstitious person in the world. That's got to be the oddest superstition that I've ever seen. A.U. Robinson. While I cannot advocate, as I for those of you that know, I actually am trained as a zookeeper. I have a zoology degree from Auburn. I cannot advocate in any way for you to do anything other than a vet would, suggest that you do. If you're finding success, you do your thing. But I would never advocate for that. It's an odd question, but hey, I understand the superstition angle. Speaking of, I used to have a bandana that I wore covering up my giant forehead. Didn't always have this receding hairline. But it was probably wore it from my first year at college till 2013 or something like that after we lost the national championship game. Never washed it. It's got sweat stains on it still because it gets hot at those football games. So I do understand the weird superstitions. That one's, though, I don't know if I can get on board with that one. Anyway. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. Smash that like button on the way out if you enjoyed this stream. We will probably not have a stream until next Friday, but if something big happens, we might do one on the evening as my work schedule gets a little hectic during the week. Doing that big interview tomorrow for Auburn Roots that's coming out in the next week. So go check it out if you are a Patreon member there at the E2C Network Booster Club. And if you want to check out and see what it is, E2C or patreon.com/E2C Network. Appreciate you guys so much. War Eagle. We'll talk to you later.